Westbrook blows the jam, but then gets the shooter's roll.
Hey there guys, what's happening and welcome back to our channel. There are some days where everything you try just ends up in disaster. You know those days, the ones that start with you dropping your mug of coffee and end with you standing in the rain waiting for a bus that never seems to turn up? But don't worry, because sometimes the opposite happens too, as the people from today's video will tell you. They're almost impossibly lucky. As a matter of fact, these are the luckiest people in the world caught on camera. Number 4, survived the death. A boy named Allison jumped from a cliff and accidentally slipped and crashed onto stones, but he was lucky enough. Even after bumping into a rock, he landed safely into the water. Similarly, an old couple was walking down the lane when out of nowhere a wagon came and hit them, but they didn't even get a single scratch. Somewhere in a village in India, 4 guys were crossing the railway track and suddenly a train came, but the guys were lucky enough that they slipped away. Once upon a time in Greece, some people were working in the woods when suddenly a glacier fell over them. Scary, right? But guess what? They survived. The odds of getting hit by lightning is 1 in 12,000, but for blind and deaf 62-year-old Edwin E. Robinson, those odds rose to 100%. Robinson, wandering outside in the field near his house, apparently looking for his chicken, swinging around his aluminum cane, and then taking shelter under the only tree when it began to rain, was too tempting for the lightning, which struck him to the ground. For 20 minutes, he laid unconscious before waking up and stumbling back to his house, going to bed for a very well-deserved nap. After all, getting struck by lightning can tire you out quite a bit, you know. But when he woke up in the evening, he discovered that he could see and hear once again. He was later examined by his doctor, who confirmed that he had regained both his sight and his hearing, and probably survived the blast due to the rubber-soled shoes that he had been wearing. Called the luckiest, unluckiest man in the world, Croatian Frane Selic has cheated death not once, not twice, but an amazing 7 times. His first brush with death was in 1962 while traveling on a train in January. The train flipped off the tracks and fell into a freezing river. Bystanders pulled him to shore and safety with only a broken arm and hypothermia, while 17 other passengers drowned. Then, only a year later in 1963, during his first and last plane ride, the plane lost altitude and plummeted to the earth. Frane was blown out of a malfunctioning plane door and somehow managed to land on a haystack unharmed while the plane crashed, killing 19 people. 3 years after that, in 1966, a bus he was riding skid off the road into a river, drowning 4 of the passengers. Selic, on the other hand, swam safely to the shore and only sustained a few cuts and bruises. Number 3, watch out for the step. An incredibly lucky moment to watch in an NBA game was when Russell missed an ambitious dunk but got an extremely lucky bouncer.
Westbrook blows the jam, but then gets the shooter's roll.
A couple was getting married, and the guy said 2020 was an awful year, and exactly at that moment, lightning struck. Although they were lucky enough, it didn't cost them any harm.
2020 has not been the best year.
During a BMX race, after a rider made an incredible jump, which he didn't land, he lost the lead by quite a bit, but somehow managed to get himself up and past the other riders and won the race. A van driver got very lucky when a styrofoam jumped out of his van and then jumped again twice in a row. Whoa! Even though drone footage is usually pretty good to see an event, sometimes mistakes can happen with drones as well. A skater got pretty lucky when a drone malfunctioned and he missed it by a few feet.
Ouais, il est pas parti pour assurer là. Oh là là, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé, le drone? C'est le drone. Incroyable cette image.
Number 2, survived an accident. When his car collided with a truck and he was crushed under the impact, everyone thought it was the end of the line for Australian Bill Morgan, and even doctors couldn't argue against it. Declared legally dead for more than 14 minutes, he was somehow revived and managed to survive after only 12 days in a coma, even after the family removed his life support. But his luck doesn't end there. To celebrate his survival, he bought a scratch-it card and won a car worth 17,000 Australian dollars, which is now worth about 25,000 Australian dollars. When the local news station heard about him and all his good fortune, they were so impressed that they did a segment about him on the show. They asked him to reenact the scene by scratching off another card, only for him to win a further whopping $250,000 again during the live show. Perhaps it was death going, "My bad, dude." Sometimes people survive because they avoid the situation that would have put them in danger. Many of these people never consciously do so, however. They chalk it up to circumstances like they were sick or had to do something else at the time, and others say they got a strange feeling not to go. In just 4 months, cyclist Martin de Jong cheated death by airplane twice. He booked a seat in the MH Flight 17 but found a cheaper flight and changed his ticket, while the doomed flight he was originally intended to go on crashed midway. He was originally scheduled to be on MH370, the flight that went missing in 2014 and was never found, only to reschedule it at the last moment. Number 1. Lost and found. Oysters are a beloved fine dining food, highly sought after in restaurants and by cooks at home for their flavor, texture, and sometimes even price. They're thought by some to be an aphrodisiac, and Terry Priest is more than in love with them now that she found a pearl in one. With the simple act of getting a few 49-pence oysters from Tesco, much like most customers do, Terry Priest managed to beat the 1,000,000-to-1 odds to find one of the pale treasures inside. She's about to move to Spain, and her colleagues at the homeless shelter she worked at made the pearl into a ring worth 500 pounds as a going-away present to always serve as a little reminder of her great luck. In 2006, Swedish woman Lena Paulsen set aside her wedding ring to do some Christmas baking, but when she went to return it to its rightful place on her finger, she discovered that it was gone. After years of searching, she and her husband concluded that the ring was lost forever. That was until 2012, nearly 16 years later, when Lena found something waiting for her in her garden. While pulling up some carrots, Paulsen was shocked to find her long-lost ring around one of the carrots, an event so amazing it caused her to let out a scream so loud that even her daughter could hear it from inside the house. Though the family has been gardening for years, there had been no sign of the ring. This was the first time they had planted gardens by simply throwing out the seeds at random across the garden instead of in rows like they'd done before. The chance that one of the seeds had landed inside the ring was like winning some sort of mini bottle ring toss at the carnival. But Lena couldn't care less about the astronomical odds of how she got her ring back. She's just glad to have it back at all. If any of you people have ever experienced such events in your life, don't forget to share them with us in the comments section below, while also leaving a like button and subscribing to our channel if you haven't already to catch up on more juicy videos like this in the future. Until next time, guys, take care and goodbye.